Guys, this one is a doozy. So Trump had a press conference tonight where he said some spectacularly stupid things. I have so many favorites in here, including what he says to a reporter at the end. There is actual promising science that came out of the press conference, but definitely not from Trump. His misinterpretation of that science is epic. The thing with Trump is that he's the kind of guy who's so stupid, he doesn't know how stupid he is. That's why he says things out loud that most of us would think like, I wonder if that's the case. I'll ask later when there's no one else in the room, let alone the whole country watching. Okay, so did he suggest injecting bleach into your body to cure coronavirus? In effect, he said disinfectant. I'm going to give you the exact quotes. And on the main show at 6 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, we'll have the actual video for you guys. But you got to hear the quotes because it just happened. If you still talk to friends, I know they're not around the water cooler, right? But you're going to be talking about this tonight, tomorrow morning, etc. And so let's get started. And did he actually talk about zapping lights into your body to cure coronavirus? Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you what kind of lights. So let me start giving you his quotes because there's a lot of them. So first of all, he brought on Bill Bryan, who's a very real person. He's the official at the Science and Technology branch of the Department of Homeland Security. He's a real doctor, real scientist, and had real things to say. And he was talking about UV light. And I'll get into the specifics of that because there is some promising technology there, but it's very different than what Trump said, okay? So these folks are talking about killing the virus while it's airborne or on surfaces. Trump does not quite grasp that, and he keeps wondering if you could take the things that you put on a surface, like Clorox. Now, he doesn't say Clorox, he says disinfectant. You'll get the exact quotes. But like Clorox, and inject it into your body. Don't do that. Don't do that. You'll die. Okay, so let's start. He says, first about the UV light. He says, so a question some of you are probably thinking of if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting, because he fancies himself a smart person who's into that world of science with the lights and the disinfectants. Now, you're probably thinking this, he says, so really, let's find out what we're all thinking, apparently. He says, so supposing we hit the body with tremendous, I don't know if it's ultraviolet or very powerful light. And I think you said that has been checked, but you're going to test it. And he points towards the doctor. Hold on. He just did a presentation, because this is a long press conference. The actual scientist did a presentation explaining that it's UV light. It's actually called far UV light. I'll explain the very important difference there in a second. Trump not paying attention. We're going to go talk to the country about a pandemic that has killed 50,000 Americans and infected nearly 900,000 Americans and is still raging. But not only didn't study for it ahead of time, didn't even listen to the guy while he was talking. And he's like, yeah, ultraviolet light or very powerful light. Okay, this is the least of his transgressions, but what does a really powerful light mean? I mean, do you want to... God... The president is supposed to be calming and intelligent and show leadership and competence. And so he's not supposed to go around saying, maybe we zap the body with a very powerful light. What do you think? Don't think out loud. Don't do it in front of cameras, you schmuck. All right, well, just warming up. He says, then I said, what if you brought the light inside of the body, which you could do either through the skin or some other way. And I think you said you were going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Now, look, remember, when he says these things to the scientists and the doctors that he's talking to, presumably in the meetings he has before, they have to humor him. So they have to say, oh, that's very interesting, Mr. President. We'll look into it. Now, because why? They've spent some time with him, and they know the president is a total moron, so you can't actually have an intelligent conversation with him. 2, has paper-thin skin, so you can't ever tell the president that's a dumb idea in any way, shape, or form. So you have to say at all times, because you're dealing with a child and a one with not a very high IQ. Let's be clear. I mean, he's not just a third grader. He's a really unintelligent third grader. So you have to say, okay, Johnny, or in this case, Donnie, we'll look into it, okay? We'll look into zapping the lights into the body. That's an interesting idea, Donnie. But my guess is they didn't expect him to come out and say it, like, in front of everybody. And they're like, yeah, okay, Mr. President. Okay. Oh, Jesus Christ. Then we get to the household bleaching agents. Do not do this. Do not do any of this, okay? He says, then I see the disinfectant 1 minute. Is there a way we can get something like that? By injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets in the lungs and it does a tremendous number on the lungs. Yes, if you injected household cleaning products into your lungs, it would do a tremendous number on your lungs, including killing you. That's why I keep telling you, don't do any of this. I don't care if you're the most MAGA guy in the world. He's going to get you killed. Don't go within a mile of this. Okay, so he says, so it'd be interesting to check that. So you'll have to use the medical doctors with it. What other kind of doctors are there? Okay, anyway, yes, I suppose there's PhDs, but we'll have to test with the medical doctors, not like the lawyer doctors or the mechanic doctors, okay? We'll test it with the medical doctors. But it's I'm continuing now with a direct quote from Trump. But it sounds interesting to me, so we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, where it goes in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful. So they must have done a demonstration for him where they showed him, hey, if you use this kind of disinfectant on a surface, it kills the virus so that when you touch it, you don't get the virus. I'm going to explain the light in just 1 second, right? But they tell him that stuff, and he thinks like, oh, okay, well, if you put it on the surface and he kills it, why don't I just inject it into my lungs? No, don't do that. My God, don't do that. Like, he doesn't know that just because Clorox might work on a surface to clean it, that it doesn't necessarily clean your lungs. The level of stupid on that is immeasurable. No scientist could measure it. It's off the charts. But to be so stupid that you don't know that that's the thing you shouldn't say out loud. Let alone the wrong information you're giving to the American public and how it might hurt them and maybe even kill them. You don't realize you're embarrassing yourself by saying these things out loud. Come on, guys. Even if you're a MAGA dude out there, you'd have enough sense to ask the doctor privately, wouldn't you? Hey, because Clorox works on a surface to kill the virus, it doesn't necessarily work if you inject it into your lungs, right? You'd ask that in private, wouldn't you? Now remember, this is the guy who also asked when a hurricane that was Category 5 was approaching America, he said, what if we nuke it? He has these ideas, and he doesn't think to be embarrassed about asking. Like, maybe you thought, hey, you know what? The ultraviolet light, I don't know anything about ultraviolet light, you might think. And before this, did I know what it could do in terms of the virus, your body, etc.? No, I don't. Nobody expects you to know it. And I'm not sure that you even expect him, when you're the president, to know any of that, especially when he's going into office. Why the hell would he know it? So that's not the issue. The issue is we're not just on day one here of the presidency, and we're not on day one of the pandemic. We're now many months into a pandemic that has killed tens of thousands of people. And the guy doesn't think, maybe I should ask that in private. Maybe I should ask that ahead of time before the cameras start rolling and everybody starts watching. All right. So let me skip ahead for a second. I'm going to come back to more of his insane quotes. But the far UVC light, because it is really interesting. So UVC light, ultraviolet light, is used by doctors to sterilize tools and other equipment. So it has this really interesting quality where it kills bacteria and viruses that are in the air and on objects. Now, the problem with normal ultraviolet light that they use to sterilize equipment is it also causes skin cancer and eye problems. So you can't use that. So like this would be the beginning of an interesting conversation if you're the president before the press conference. Oh, really? Like, oh, what does ultraviolet light normally do? Why is this far UVC as opposed to the normal kind? Oh, okay, what is the difference? Well, then you would find out the far UVC, and I did this with a very simple Google search where I ran into an article explaining how Colombia is working on this, and it's really very promising. And so what the far UVC does is you if it's in a room, it kills the bacteria and the viruses in the room, but it does not cause skin cancer. It doesn't cause any problems to humans. It doesn't cause any eye problems. That's why it's different than normal ultraviolet light. And so it's promising because it penetrates the virus and kills it, but does not penetrate human skin. Oh, wow, that's great. That's wonderful, okay? So does that mean if you zap it into human beings that it is going to cure you of coronavirus? Of course not. The whole point of it is that it doesn't harm humans because we're concerned that it would harm humans. Guys, this took 5 minutes, and I'm not the president of the United States, and you're not either, and you can find out about it so easy. The guy does not have the intellectual curiosity to ask about it ahead of time, and he doesn't have the sense to not talk about it and speculate about it as if he's a scientist when he doesn't know anything. We are an international embarrassment. Guys, it's not an accident that we're 5% of the world's population and have over 25% of the coronavirus deaths in the world. Because we have a totally incompetent buffoon, carnival barker as a president and as a leader. Of course we don't have enough masks. Of course we don't have enough tests. South Korea had the tests immediately executed near perfectly from day one. And they had this elaborate system. They were ready to go with it. They had the test. They administered the test. They quarantined the people who had it. They traced the contacts of the people who tested positive, quarantined them, and they isolated it and limited the scope of it. We went, we had a guy going, I don't know, what do you think? Lights and Clorox, what have we injected into our eyeballs? Yeah, of course we were unprepared. And we're still unprepared. We still don't have enough master tests. So, okay, now, look, the good news is the far UVC, it's just the beginning. Like, please, everybody be cautious in everything that you read. Yes, Colombia is working on it. Colombia is a very esteemed institution. I'm not saying I went to law school there, but I am, and I did. Okay, that has nothing to do with the story. See, that's a fun aside. If Trump did that, you say, oh, he's just kidding around, right? Anyway, but it's super legitimate. But is it fully tested? No. Should you go around zapping things with far UVC light? No. Okay. Just hold on. Let them work on it. Let them do some trials. Let them do science and then come back with an answer. If you want to give people some hope, great. Have the scientists talk about it and say, hey, that sounds really promising. I hope we can do that because then that would help us with all the indoor spaces where the virus stays for far too long, stays in the room for 2-3 hours, and I can give you dozens of examples of how it has spread when it is in a room. And the fact that it's airborne is why it's part of the reason why it's so contagious. And if we can help limit that contagion, that's fantastic. And see, you just gave people hope. You gave them a really simple explanation without talking about injecting very powerful light into the body. We're going to look into that, right? We're going to look into it. We're going to show you the actual videos tomorrow at 6 o'clock Eastern. Every day, 6 o'clock Eastern, the show starts. That's where we have our directors, etc. And we can roll video. So because I know, like me reading the transcript, you almost can't believe he said that, right? He did. It's on tape. All right. So now, then he turns, by the way, to the doctor again. And he says, so, what do we think about... no, I'm sorry, John Carl from ABC News then asked the doctor, hey, are you considering... Because he just said you were in... Are you considering injecting bleach into people's bodies? And Brian answered, we don't do that in our labs. We don't do that in our labs or anywhere else because that's insane. So then Trump feels a little embarrassed. And so he says, I presume, because the reporter asked a question about it, there's more embarrassing stuff in a second, but he says, not cleaning through injection, even though he just said cleaning through injection. Anyway, almost a cleaning, sterilization of an area. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, but it certainly has a big effect if it's on a stationary object. Again, he betrays himself there in his ignorance. Just because it works on a stationary object, I would never assume that it works inside the body. Those are two totally different things. You want to ask hey, Dr. Brian, spitballing here, okay, just crazy idea, but is there any way that could get inside the body? No, of course not. I didn't think so. That's different than, okay, everybody, what we're doing here is cleaning, sterilizing an area. We're going to look into it. Okay. He then went back and started talking about how because the light, in this case, far UVC light, kills the germs, he started talking about, like, you see, I knew it, the heat. Because remember once he said, once the weather gets hot, like in April, he said, it magically disappears. I think I remember him literally doing this. Magically disappears. Here we are in April. It did not magically disappear. It's gotten much, much worse. Has he ever been right about anything? So anyway, he says that this might confirm, quote, the nice rumor that the virus might fade in the summer. Heat does kill the virus. To jump from that to, hey, we'll be fine in April or May or July is a giant stretch. There's a kernel of truth in how the virus reacts to the heat, but it ain't this, okay? And it isn't through injections. Anyway, so he says several times, and by the way, to be fair to him, he does say that he's not a doctor, okay? But remember, his cult takes every word he says as gospel. And they even say, oh, doctors and science, they don't know anything. Trump knows, right? But he kept saying when challenged on it, maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not a doctor, okay? So then the president turns around and asks Dr. Birx. You remember Dr. Birx, she's been in all the press conferences, whether she'd, quote, ever heard of heat and light being used as a cure for a virus. And she responds, quote, and not as a treatment. In other words, yes, if it's under some conditions, if the heat might kill the virus that's airborne, but not as a treatment of human beings. And again, please ask her in private, because you and I as rational people think, oh, hey, there's the Bozo the Clown doing as the scientists and doctors. He's like a entertainment intermission, right? But remember, 40% of the country thinks he's God. And they're like, oh, what did Jesus Trump say now? Oh, Clorox! Everybody grab the Clorox! And the heat! And then they're going to go into saunas, and they're going to, I know it seems unbelievable. Who could be this stupid? Well, look, what's super embarrassing is Trump. It's super embarrassing to the country that he's our leader. It's super embarrassing to him that he says things like this and doesn't realize how dumb he is. But it's also, I think the most embarrassing part is for his followers. Because they see this stuff that you can't believe and you're laughing at and you're worried about, like, they look at it and they're like, oh man, he nailed it again. Ha ha! Owning the libs. Hey, let's say I inject Clorox, we're going to own the libs. Don't. I'm not telling you because I don't want you to own me. Oh, I'm going to live rent-free inside your head once I die from injecting Clorox into my lungs. I mean, I'll be dead, but you'll be living inside your head. You'll be thinking about how stupid I was. This is how they think. They're going to vote for this guy. They're going to vote for this guy. They're going to say, after seeing all of this, they think, nailed it. Man, I can't wait to make that guy our leader again. Put him in charge again. If we kill another 50,000 people, we'll own the libs even more. Okay. So a reporter then again asked the president, hey, are you spreading unproven theories here again? Which is really the most polite way that you could ask that question. I mean, somebody in the room should have asked him, Mr. President, you're an embarrassment to the whole country. Do you not realize that injecting disinfectants into your body is not ever going to work? Nuking a hurricane isn't going to work. Windmills don't cause cancer. Exercise doesn't deplete the energy of your body and kill you faster. These are all things he actually believes and has said out loud. Mr. President, when are you going to resign is the actual question. But of course, they don't ask that. So he asks a very polite question of, are you worried that you're, again, spreading unproven theories? And Trump says to the reporter, you're a total faker. Projection 101. What's he doing out there? He doesn't know anything. He can't be the leader of anything. He couldn't be the leader of a band. He couldn't be the leader of a bunch of chipmunks. He couldn't lead a foundation. He couldn't lead the 6 businesses that he drove into bankruptcy. He couldn't lead a fake university. He couldn't lead anything. And so as he's out there so above his head, doesn't know what the hell's going on at all, when a reporter asks him a simple and obvious question, he projects onto him what he thinks about himself. Total faker. Exactly. That's exactly what Donald Trump is. A total faker. God, if you think he's smart and a good leader, that's the saddest thing I've ever heard. All right, guys. Again, more on this on the Young Turks tomorrow. Interviews are at 5:30 Eastern, and the main show's at 6 o'clock Eastern. YouTube.com/TYT or TYT.com. Either way. And, of course, help keep Young Turks strong and vibrant so we could say these things without any hesitation. The mainstream media, as they're aghast by it, they're like still kind of beating around the bushes and trying to figure out, I wonder why he said that. Well, I have a theory. He's doing a distraction or it's a secret strategy. There's no secret strategy. He's a total and utter idiot, an embarrassing, comically stupid person. TYT.com/go. Okay, I want to hound that guy to the end of the earth. Help us beat him. We got to stay strong. We got to stay progressive. And we got to make sure that we're not led by idiots like this. TYT.com/go. I'll see you guys tomorrow.